Hey guys, this is a little video I put together on how to change the spark plugs for a Lexus ISF. It took me about 3 hours, and if I were to do it again, I would be able to do it in half the time. Anyway, the first thing that I had to do was remove all of the plastic covers over the engine. Next, you would unbolt a computer unit with a heatsink. With the unit out of the way, you see that you have enough room to remove the coil pack and then the spark plug. To remove the spark plug, I used a magnetic spark plug socket with a universal joint adapter to provide some flexibility in getting to the tight spot. Here is how the old one looks next to the new one. The old one doesn't seem too bad, but because I bought the car used, I wanted to change them anyway. For the record, I did all of the passenger side first before the driver's, and the driver's side was actually much easier. With the new one in, I used a torque wrench set to 15 pounds to get it tightened. You could go with a good hand tightening, but I prefer to use a torque wrench. The next one required needle nose pliers to unclip the wiring harness from the fuse box so it could be moved off the way. I moved the harness around the dipstick tube, giving me plenty of room to work on the second plug. I actually struggled a bit here in removing the bolt to the coil pack before realizing a mini ratchet would be the best solution. So I ended up making a quick Home Depot run to get one. With the mini ratchet, I was easily able to remove the bolt to the coil pack. Getting the coil pack out was actually the harder part, but once the coil pack is out, I had no problem getting out the spark plug. I used a long extension, as you can see here in this picture. Also in this picture, you can see that the wiring harness is tucked behind the dipstick. This next one, third one from the front of the engine on the passenger side, was one of the harder ones. Some people may choose to completely remove the fuse box, but I didn't want to do that. I simply unhooked the fuse box to create some wiggle room to work with. Also in this picture, I had to unhook a small black box that was attached to the fuse box. It can be seen in the lower left hand side. So with the fuse box loosened, there was barely enough room for me to get my hands in there to unbolt the coil pack and to carefully remove it. With the coil pack out, I was able to get my extension in there and to easily remove the spark plug. Your extension doesn't have to be this long, but I figured why the hell not. For the last one on the passenger side, you just have to take out the battery. I'm not going to go through the steps in doing that. It's not that hard anyway, but once you have the battery out, that spark plug is in plain sight. As you can see, plenty of room, no struggle at all to get out the last spark plug on the passenger side. The hardest part for this last plug was probably lifting the heavy battery out in an awkward position, trying not to scratch your fender and all that. Now onto the driver's side, which is a lot easier. First thing you want to do is unbolt the AC bracket, giving you enough room to access the bolt for the coil pack. I had no problem removing the bolt to the coil pack, but to remove the spark plug, I would have to get the hose out of the way. Some may choose to remove the entire bracket that the hose is attached to. I simply chose to unclip it and to slightly push it aside as I take out the spark plug. For the second one on the driver's side, you will need to remove a small fuse box and set it aside. You will need to keep it unattached for the rest of the plugs. With the fuse box moved aside, spark plugs 2 and 3 were super easy to get to. The final spark plug is a tight squeeze, but I was able to get in under the master cylinder lines and remove the coil pack and plug. And that is it. Just make sure you put back the fuse box and all the connections that you should be, AC line, and make sure you hook up the bracket again. Going back to the passenger side, just checking that everything else is in place too, because I had to remove more on this side, so I want to make sure that everything is proper. And that's about it. Thanks for watching, guys.